Times have been tough in the crypto space for the past couple of months, and even strong altcoins like ICP have been beaten down tremendously. As you can see, last February we were trading at $7.60 for this coin, and since then we have went all the way down to $2.60. Now, in my opinion, this drop was not caused because ICP is a scam or a bad project by any means. I believe this is actually caused by uncertainty in the overall market and bearish price action for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. The truth is, guys, when you're investing into altcoins, it is one of the most risky assets you can buy. And whenever you're investing into risk on assets, you can expect them to have significant drops whenever the market is unsure about the future of the overall economy. And that is exactly what we've seen for the past couple of years. Basically, since Trump introduced the tariffs into the market last March, we have seen bearish price action for not just crypto, but the majority of risk on assets throughout all markets. But in my opinion, you should not let this bearish price action deter you from investing into a project like this, because I believe ICP has a lot of potential under the right market conditions. I've stated on my channel multiple times that I think it is very possible for ICP to get between a $20 billion market cap to as high as a $50 billion market cap. So if you are buying down here at a $1.4 billion market cap, you could end up 15 to 40xing your investment if you do perfectly time the top. Now, of course, guys, we could continue to trend lower on these coins. I think that that is very possible. So you do need to be ready for volatility. And of course, that is not financial advice. That is just my opinion. And I urge you guys to do your own research outside of these videos. But guys, as you can see here, we are currently sitting at a 14 out of 100 on the crypto fear and greed index, which means the overall sentiment in this space is incredibly fearful. I don't believe that we will see a parabolic run for ICP until we are around 80 to 90 on this chart, which we are clearly very far away from at this moment. But in my opinion, guys, it is always best to buy into fear and sell into greed, and that is why I've personally been accumulating strong altcoins for the past couple of months, and I plan on continuing to do so regardless of how low we potentially go, because that strategy has worked very well for me in the past. Back in 2022, when we saw a very similar dip to this for the majority of altcoins, I was accumulating as much as possible at those levels, even though at that time, just like right now, it seemed like these coins were never going to recover. But fast forward 1 to 2 years, and I ended up 5 to 10xing my initial investment on a lot of those projects. So in my opinion, it's best to ignore the FUD and ignore all of the bears that think crypto is dead and never coming back, and actually buy into the fear. In this video, I'm not going to talk about ICP as a project or the news as much as I typically do, but guys, just know that ICP has such a fantastic narrative, being one of the best layer 1 blockchains in the entire crypto space in terms of technology, and it also has an emphasis on AI. I personally believe that both of those narratives will be incredibly valuable the next time altcoins go on a bull run, and I believe that that is why ICP will be one of the best performing assets in the space. Not only that, ICP does not have nearly as high of inflation as it used to, as the majority of the token unlocks have already happened for this project, and they are actually proposing to cut the inflation rate from 9.2% all the way down to 2.2% at the end of this year. The high inflation rate for this project was one of the only bearish things in my opinion, but the devs have solved that recently, and in my opinion, that just strengthens the overall narrative for ICP by so much. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to continue to be bullish on ICP and accumulate as much as possible at these significant discounts. But alright guys, let's go ahead and shift our attention to the overall market, because I do believe there is a lot of things happening right now that are causing volatility. And as you can see here, unfortunately the situation between the US and Iran is starting to escalate yet again, as these two countries were supposed to have discussions on the nuclear deal on Friday, but unfortunately this meeting has been canceled. And to make matters even worse, Trump is warning Iran's supreme leader that they should be very worried, which in my opinion means that we will likely do some sort of military action against Iran. Now, in my opinion, there is a very good chance that this will not escalate into a full-on war, but there is a very high likelihood that we will do some sort of missile strike on Iran, kind of like what happened last year. So I don't know if this is necessarily a long-term concern for markets, but guys, this is causing a lot of uncertainty, and as I mentioned in basically all of my videos, these macro events that cause uncertainty uncertainty end up creating bearish price action, and we are seeing that in crypto and the overall stock market. So I really hope that this situation ends up clearing up in a peaceful way so that we can finally move on from this event. But I'll just have to continue to monitor this on my channel because, of course, I do not have a crystal ball, so I do not know how this will end up playing out. All right, and then moving on to some more bullish things, the odds of the Crypto Clarity Act being passed this year have surged to 72% on Polymarket. This is absolutely massive because just a couple of weeks ago, we had dipped all the way down to 40%, which of course the crypto market did not like to see. Crypto holders have been waiting on this Clarity Act for a very long time, basically since the early days of crypto. So the fact that this could potentially be passed within the next couple of months is incredibly bullish. I believe that the Clarity Act will increase overall institutional investments and make it significantly easier for banks to engage in the crypto industry. And although some people think that that is not the best thing for the overall crypto market, I believe it will be a very bullish catalyst to help push the prices of these coins up. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that people continue to call for Bitcoin to fall further. Now, I know that this is very scary for people that are not seasoned crypto investors, but in my opinion, guys, whenever you see people calling for Bitcoin to drop to levels like 38,000 or 50 to 60,000, like I've seen a lot on social media, that is typically a very bullish sign, because when everybody thinks the price of an asset is going to continue to fall, it typically does the opposite of what people think. An example of this that happened a couple months ago when Bitcoin was actually pushing towards all-time highs was that basically every single financial analyst was predicting that Bitcoin was going to reach $150,000 to $200,000, and some analysts were even raising their price predictions that they had set just months before that was happening. And of course, fast forward a couple months, and that was Bitcoin's local top, and we have fallen $50,000 since then. So yeah, guys, I do not trust these analysts. A lot of times, I believe they are actually manipulating the market to try to shake retail out or to get retail to buy on the opposite side of things. So yeah, this does actually give me a lot of hope that the bottom is very close for Bitcoin, if not already in. And when we go on over to the Bitcoin chart, this chart does undoubtedly look very scary. Bitcoin did unfortunately break the upwards trending support line that we've been holding since 2023, which is of course adding a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt for technical analysts. But in my opinion, guys, this does look very similar to the dip that we had in 2022, as we had our all-time high and then a slightly higher high, just like what we saw last year, and then we had a dip, an attempt to recover back to the upside, which is kind of what we saw for the past couple of weeks, and then one more crash to the downside. So if this is actually the scenario, of course we could continue to go lower, and it is very possible that Bitcoin could get somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000. But in my opinion, I think that we are much closer to a bottom than a top, and I believe that dollar cost averaging is a very good idea. But of course, that is just my opinion and not financial advice. And of course, the reason why I mentioned Bitcoin in my ICP video is because, as I said earlier, I do not believe we will see coins like ICP have a rally to the upside until Bitcoin finds a bottom and starts to trend back up. So guys, it is very important that even if you are not holding Bitcoin, that you keep your eyes on this chart and continue to monitor what is happening with the price of this asset. But alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Stay strong, stay bullish, ignore the FUD. If the prices of these coins are causing you to have a difficult time mentally, just do your best to just stop looking at the prices for the next couple of months. This dip is not the end of the world and certainly not the end of crypto. So even if you do not have the money to be dollar cost averaging, or the confidence for that matter, then just continue to hold, in my opinion, because we will eventually make it out of this, and Bitcoin and a lot of these strong assets will at some point make new all-time highs. But alright everybody, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.